everyone, and welcome back to my channel where I challenge myself to make something I've never made before every week. Today I'm doing a what I eat in a day, or should I say a what I eat in 2 days, because I wanted to show you guys a day where I only eat Asian food and a day where I only eat Western food. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but when I went to visit relatives in China, they would always ask me, 你喜欢吃西餐还是中餐? Which means, do you like to eat Western food or Chinese food? And my answer is, obviously I like to eat all kinds of food. So I thought it would be fun to show off both types of foods over a what I eat in 2 days. So let's get started. And we're starting off the day with my newfound love, congee. Now, most of the time I make plain congee, but occasionally I get in the mood for 皮蛋瘦肉粥 or pork and 1,000-year egg congee. I remember when we used to go to dim sum restaurants, we would always order one of these on the side. And it was always so warm and comforting, so I thought that I would try to make it today. In my opinion, congee is a really great option for breakfast or lunch, because if you really hate to eat the same thing day after day like me, you can always mix up what you put into your congee or what you eat your congee with. Usually, making congee takes quite a bit of time, but a great tip from this recipe that I'm using is to use frozen rice. Now, instead of cooking your rice for like an hour or two, you'll just need to cook it for 20 minutes. Which means making congee is now super convenient. Now let's talk about 1,000-year eggs, or 皮蛋. I think if you've never seen century eggs before, the appearance might seem pretty intense. And to be fair, the taste of it is pretty unlike any other egg that you've probably ever tasted. But 1,000-year eggs have a really interesting flavor that goes super well with congee. So if you've never tried 1,000-year eggs before, I would highly recommend giving it a try in this context. After about 15 minutes of cooking, we can add our pork and our ginger and our century egg. If you're adding other ingredients, you can be the judge of whether or not you want to add them earlier or later, depending on how long your ingredient takes to cook. You can see that the rice is completely cooked in only 20 minutes, which I was so shocked and so pleased by, because now I can eat congee whenever I want. And lo and behold, it's not only super easy and convenient, but also so delicious. The pork was good and the century egg was good, but dang, that ginger flavor really pulled it all together. I was a little sad because I was planning on giving a lot of this congee to a friend. But hey, it's so easy that I can just literally make it again in another 20 minutes. For dinner, I'm making one of my favorite weeknight dinners, Katsudon. Which, if you didn't know, Katsudon is short for tonkatsu donburi, or pork cutlet over rice. Usually, katsu is deep fried. But since I am absolutely too lazy to deep fry anything on a weekday, I like to use this baked Katsudon recipe instead. For the katsu, I like to get thin boneless pork chops, which sometimes the supermarket won't sell them thin like this, but I just ask them to cut a regular pork chop in half. If you're feeling adventurous, I'm sure you could make the same recipe with chicken thigh or even steak. Steak sounds like it would be super fun. For some reason, I always forget to season my pork chops. So here is your reminder so you don't get bland katsu. We're gonna be breading with flour, then egg, then the toasted panko that we made earlier. And the pre-toasted panko will give that kind of signature golden brown look that you would usually get from deep frying.
그대는 죄인이 되어 날 서운하게 해요. 당연한 거 아는데 욕심이 나서 그래요. 나도 모르게 그대 앞에 서면
Now for the rest of the katsudon, we just have a few more things to get ready. Starting off with slicing a quarter onion for every serving that you're making. And then beating 2 eggs for every serving that you're making. The recipe technically just says 1 egg per serving, but that's never quite seemed enough to me, or maybe I just love eggs. The last thing is the katsudon sauce. The measurements here are for 2 servings, so just adjust accordingly. So unfortunately, you can only make katsudon like 1 portion at a time. But luckily, each portion takes like 5 minutes, so it won't be too long before everyone can eat. I think there are also specially made Katsudon pans, but honestly, it has never seemed that necessary to me. A regular pan works just fine. I have never quite managed the perfect slide of the katsudon into my rice bowl. So if you know how to do it so it looks pretty, let me know in the comments below. And with that, it's time to eat. Now, of course, because I've made this before, I already know how it tastes. Which is to say, I know it tastes super good. I think my favorite thing is probably the onions, which both provide a sweetness and a crunch to the dish. And in my opinion, the baked katsu tastes pretty much just as good as if I deep fried it, with none of the oil cleanup. And also what's nice is you can 100% bake all of these pork chops in advance. And then just spend like 10 minutes chopping onions and making your katsudon on a weeknight. And good morning again. I didn't get to talk about my breakfast on the first day, but suffice to say, I love pastries, both the Eastern and the Western kind. And I'm so lucky to have a local bakery which makes the best chocolate croissants. But maybe it's not quite so lucky because my wallet definitely feels the loss. But my stomach and my heart definitely feel the gain, so I think it's worth it.
We couldn't tell the sky from the ground. I know my life will never be the same after that day.
For lunch, I'm having something that I haven't had in a really long time. Bagel and Lox. Which, fun fact, there is a difference between lox and smoked salmon, which is that smoked salmon is both cured in salt and smoked, but lox is only cured in salt. Which means lox does tend to be slightly saltier. And so because I think smoked salmon is salty enough already, I'm just going with smoked salmon today. Which, honestly, I was kind of dumb and only put 2 pieces, but I should have put like 4 pieces because I'm an adult now and I can choose however many pieces of smoked salmon I want on my bagel.
You looked at me before, makes me want you even more. If you want to, I'm up for a kiss. I know it's tough. Don't let anybody tell you you're not enough. There are days when we all feel like we're messed up. But we don't.
The good thing about this lunch is it basically requires no cooking at all, but you still end up feeling really good with your beautiful, colorful lunch. And it's pretty good. Honestly, for something that takes like 5 minutes to make, it really makes you feel ultra fancy. And it tastes super fresh, especially with the lemon on it. So if you're tired of PB&Js or eating out for lunch, I highly recommend giving Bagel and Lox a try instead.
I don't ever wanna be alone again. Despite all, you're my best friend.
For dinner, I'm having one of my favorite new discoveries, which is that cooking ribs, pretty easy. This only came about because my mother-in-law was like, "Yo, you guys have to go to Whole Foods and buy the baby back ribs. They're on sale." And I was like, alright, I guess I gotta learn how to make ribs now, so. But as it turns out, you literally just bake them for 3 hours. And sure, you could just eat the ribs after you bake them, but making some homemade barbecue sauce is also pretty easy. Fun fact, I'm actually using rice wine vinegar instead of apple cider vinegar here. It still tastes super good, so if you don't happen to have apple cider vinegar lying around, I'm sure you can just use whatever other vinegar you have. And for the side, I'm going to make mashed potatoes. Because I love potatoes. I like that we're using both russet and Yukon Gold potatoes in this recipe, because the russet potatoes make mashed potatoes light and fluffy, while the Yukon Gold potatoes make it buttery and creamy. Truly the best combination.
Now so you walk in the
If you are strapped for time, smaller potato pieces take less time to soften. So just cut up your potatoes into really small cubes. When a fork or a knife goes through your potato with no problems, you're done! To get rid of any residual moisture, we're just gonna shake around our potatoes over low heat until it feels like there's no more water at the bottom. And then I'm just gonna mash the potatoes. I know there's lots of fancy tools to mash your potatoes these days, but for me, I feel like a regular old potato masher works good enough. The potatoes don't look super creamy right now, but watch out, this buttermilk mixture is literally magic. It transforms the potatoes into super creamy mashed potatoes right in front of your eyes. And the cream cheese adds a little extra flavor. After about 3 hours, I checked to see if my ribs were done, and boy are they done. If you can easily rip off pieces with your fork, you're good to go. Then I'll just slather on the barbecue sauce that we made, being extra generous on both sides. And you can eat it as is, or you can put it back in the broiler for a couple minutes for the barbecue sauce to caramelize. Man, I was so hungry at this point. I was glad that I was able to finally sit down for some dinner. And you can just see how tender the ribs are. And I didn't really even have to do anything. And of course, just like it looks, it's so melt in your mouth tender and delicious. And the barbecue sauce is also fantastic, especially with that little hint of sriracha flavor. I think it's really great that you can make ribs at home and have them be just as tender and satisfying as if you got them in a restaurant. So if you don't know what you're eating this week for dinner, can I recommend ribs? But after a long 2 days of cooking and eating delicious food, that's it for today's video. I was really happy to share with you guys some of my favorite things to eat that aren't too hard to make, so hopefully you guys got some ideas for what to eat this week. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe, it would really mean a lot to me. I upload a new video every Monday. And let me know in the comments below, what's your favorite weeknight dinner? Maybe I'll give it a try in my next What I Eat in a Day. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Bye!